Hello, grade sevens. I hope you guys are doing really well. Welcome to your second lesson of online schooling. We are going to be needing our English books because we are doing English. We are going to be focusing on activity 9 today, and this is going to take place on the pages 32 to 34. I hope that you guys are just as excited for this lesson as I am. Let's get started. Okay, so we are going to be focusing on parts of speech today. So let's start with our introduction. The way to think about parts of speech is to ask yourself what each word or phrase does. So what work does it do? So every part of speech or every word has a function. So a part of speech, for example, would be a noun. Okay, now what does this do? It names things. Dog, cat, chair, table. That is an example of a part of speech. Another example would be a verb. So what's a verb's function? It tells us that a person is doing something. So that is its part. That is the part of speech's function. Okay, so one example of a part of speech is an adjective. Adjectives tell us something about a noun. There are different kinds of adjectives, two of which are the demonstrative and the relative. Okay, so adjectives are describing words. They describe a noun. For example, I could tell you that I saw a flag. Okay, so that's a noun. Flag is my noun. But if I say to you, I saw a South African flag, that is an example of an adjective because it is describing the noun. It is telling you more about the noun. Another example would be, I had a juicy apple today. So it sounds a lot better than if I just said, I had an apple today. So apple is my noun. Therefore, by adding the adjective juicy, I am telling you more about my noun, which is the apple. Okay, so now that we know what adjectives are, we can start talking about the different types of adjectives we have. So firstly, we've got a demonstrative adjective. So the demonstrative adjective points out a particular noun, okay? For example, which advertisement is better? This advertisement or that one? So do you see how the words this and that are pointing out the particular nouns that they are talking about? The demonstrative adjectives this and that demonstrate or point to or indicate precisely which advertisements we mean. Okay, so remember the demonstrative adjective points out a particular noun. Which beanie looks better on me? This one or that one? Which roses look better in my garden? These or those? Okay, so those are examples of demonstrative adjectives. They talk about a noun so that a person knows which noun they are referring to. Relative adjectives. A relative adjective is really just a relative pronoun. It is a word that points to or relates to a noun, the adjective part, and can stand in its place, the pronoun part. For example, which is the advertisement you like best on television? The word which relates to advertisement, the adjective part, but which can also stand in place of advertisement, the pronoun part. If you use that instead of which and say, that is the advertisement I like best on the telly, then that works in the same way as which, an adjective and a pronoun. A pronoun is a word that stands in place of a noun. Okay, so grade sevens. This may seem very, very confusing, but all that this is actually saying is that relative adjectives are pretty much just pronouns. They are relative pronouns. So relative pronouns can stand in place of a noun. So instead of saying the advertisements on television, that is my favorite on television, we say my favorite advertisement which is on television is da 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 da. Okay, so all you really need to focus on is that it's words like this, that, which, and they replace nouns in a sentence. Okay, now we are going to be talking about pronominal phrases. If a few words are used to stand in place of another word or words, we call it a pronominal phrase. For example, in the sentence, "It exposed me to the secret world of advertising and brands" contains two pronouns. So the two pronouns that the sentence contains would be it, as it stands in place for whatever introduced this person to the advertising and brands. And the other pronoun would be me. That is a personal pronoun because it is in place of the person's name. Then if we look at the second bullet, it says the phrase "my own edition" stands in place of book, and so can be called a pronominal phrase. So we need to remember that pronouns are used to stand in front of the names of things. Sorry, stand in for the names of things. So if I had to go to someone and say, "I have a book," that's great. But then if I had to go to them and say, "I have my own edition," my own edition is in place of the book. Okay, so that is why it's a pronoun. It is replaced a common noun's name. Okay, and then it's got more than one word, so that is what makes it a phrase. Okay, so now you've got a language assessment. We are going to read the following paragraph. The Hidden Persuaders is a short book by Vance Packard. It exposed me to the secret world of advertising and brands. I remember my own edition packed with dynamite. It had a lurid cover illustration showing a barbed fishhook buried in a gleaming apple. Packard's book reached into the darkest corner of the cynical selling and the commercials that ran between the shows. I was a child of television. Whatever appeared on the color screen of our wood cabinet TV was a miraculous transmission from a better world. But Packard had tried to warn Americans of how new mutation in advertising. Powerful admin were working to tap the irrational in the consumer mind. As more goods came to the supermarket shelves, advertisers decided they were no longer selling just products, but malleable brand personalities. Decades later, I knew the results. Of course, Coke was the red wholesomeness of tradition and majority taste, and Pepsi was the younger, blue, less popular choice of a rebellious new generation. My 14-year-old self was sure of it. Okay, so these questions are based on the paragraphs that we just read. 1. Pick out 5 adjectives in the second last sentence of the second paragraph. Which are they? So you need to find 5 adjectives and then you need to say what types of adjectives they are. Are they demonstrative? Are they relative? You need to mention that. Then 2. In the passage above, the second sentence contains 2 pronouns. Which are they? Okay, so then you need to mention the pronouns that have been listed. These questions tell you where to look for the answers, so just go look in your paragraphs and you will find the answers there. Okay, so here's the continuation of what we started with. 3. The last sentence contains a pronominal phrase and a pronoun. Which is which? Explain how you know. Okay, so now you need to look at the last sentence. Now what you need to remember is that pronominal phrases are always more than one word. So that's how you would know that it's a phrase. And a pronoun is usually just one word that stands in front, in place of the noun's name. I hope that helps you guys a little bit. Name the parts of speech of the words Coke and Pepsi. Okay, so over here you need to think about the fact that they start with capital letters, so that obviously means something.